Greetings, Webheads, and welcome to episode 28 of Witty Banter, yet another Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Alex.
I'm David.
I am become meme.
We are here to help you get better at and have more fun with your Crisis Protocol. We want to dust off something we haven't done for a little while, Webheads. We've been talking about it the last couple episodes, but we are going to be doing a giveaway. We've announced it for the last couple episodes, and AMG very thoughtfully had a shipping delay, so we are able to actually announce the winner of our War of Kings set in time before it actually releases, even though our release date has been pushed back. So thanks, AMG. Really appreciate your thoughtfulness. The winner of the box set is Zach Vriedenberg. Zach, thanks for being part of the Patreon. Thanks for supporting the community. We'll be contacting you, and we'll get your information to get your War of Kings sent out to you. Now, if you would like to be like Zach and help us out and be registered to win fabulous prizes, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/wittybantercast. For as little as $1 a month, you can support us. You can help us keep things rolling, and you can get some cool stuff like be part of the giveaway that we just did and get priority dojoing for lists like you're going to see a little later in this episode. So we'd really appreciate it if you could check us out. In addition, if supporting us on Patreon doesn't work for you, the other way that you can get entered is if you can leave us a rating and a review on Apple or Spotify or whatever your method of choice. Just do that, send us a screenshot, and you're in just as well. So we'd really appreciate that. We want to give a reminder that we've got our tournament coming up, our Bugeater tournament. Alex, do you want to talk a little bit about what that is and how people can get more information?
Yeah, Bugeater, it's a local grand tournament that we've been hosting at the Millard West High School for coming up. This is its 14th year. Does a great job supporting the school itself by all the ticket purchases go towards the schools, debate and forensics teams, let them get some extra funding for the school itself. This year it is May 30th, 31st, and June 1st. Friday will be a singleton three-player team event, and Saturday is the Contest of Champions, just your basic Challenger event. Depending on how many players we get, could require a top 8 cut for Sunday. It is currently an LVO qualifier. And Sunday, for those that are not in the top 8, if we are required for a top 8 cut, can participate in the What If event that I put together. Every year, it's just fun 3-round events where I come up with crazy rules that both players benefit with and just puts a different spin to the game. Each day is $20, or we have a bundle for $50. And we have Longshanks events created for all 3 of them already, and we'll share those in the description of the episode.
And then the Longshanks episodes have the information on getting the tickets too. Is that right?
Yeah, the Longshanks events themselves, all 3 of them have a link to the Bugeater website to purchase tickets.
Okay, so we'll put those links in the show notes, and we'll also be putting them out on our socials. So if you're anywhere near the Omaha area, or you have access to a car, or you have access to a plane, come join us. Come play a Bugeater with us. For our main topic today, we are going to have a discussion about threat. David, this was your idea. So you want to kind of lay out a little bit what your thought was in terms of what you wanted to talk about.
So, I mean, fuck, we've been playing this game for how long? 5 years? Something like that?
You're in
Six.
year
So,
5.
yeah. So, in the time that I've been playing this game, I've started to realize that a lot of people don't really know what their thought process is when they choose the threat, whether it's choosing the threat of their crisis or choosing the threat at if you lose the priority roll. And some people just go, I'll just take the highest threat because that's what you do, right? But I would want to tell people how I think about it and how we think about it because it's all of us, right?
Yeah.
So, and with the new crisis changes and there not being a 15 threat anymore, I figure it's a good time to talk about it, right?
Sure.
So, I guess the first thing I would say is that when you're building a roster, you probably, obviously, you need to have a plan for every possible threat because if you don't have a plan for every possible threat, you're going to end up with a weird situation where you're like, oh, I can't physically make a team at 16 threat or something, which is probably bad. But there are other considerations, right? Like threat is something that one, I will say, JP, you are so much better at this than I am. I very rarely will look at my opponent's roster when I decide the threat. And that's probably a mistake, but it's hard for me. Like, I'm usually just like, oh, I got this good team at this threat, so I'm going to take this team. And maybe I should consider what my opponent could possibly play and how wide they could go or how tall, obviously.
Yeah, I think that probably comes down to your familiarity with your opponent and or their list also. Like if you don't know how a list the more game knowledge you have, the more you can break it down, right?
Yeah, and there are some what I would call not accepted rules, but most of the time you're like, I'm gonna pick the lower threat value versus webs or something like that, which is usually probably the better choice because you don't want to give scoring teams more opportunities to take more models.
Yeah. That's for sure. Like attrition tends to want lower threat and scenario wants higher typically. There are now that the 15s are gone, it's a little different, but like historically there have kind of been like if your opponent's running 15, they have like a really solid 15 threat team that they're going to play. A lot of them, a lot of the 15 threat. I don't know why we're talking about 15 threat since we don't have it anymore, but like they would set up for like if they're playing attrition. Usually it was like three wide, so they'd have like a big dude, and then like maybe two big dudes and a small dude, or big dude, medium dude, small dude. Three guys that add up to 15 that just like whip your ass. So typically you would just want to avoid that if that wasn't your game plan. Now that we're not sitting on 15s, I don't know, 16 is kind of a weird number because we've got Black Order Descends, Fisk. There's a new one that's 16, right?
Yeah, Deadline to Destruction.
Yeah. So I guess Fisk is a weird one.
I
Deadline.
love Fisk, though.
Deadline's pretty grindy. That's gonna be definitely an attrition list take. But Black Order Descends is just a weird one. Attrition's not taking that, so yeah, I don't know. I think I don't think 16 is going to be as big of a bullet to dodge as 15 was. It'll still be a thing with Deadline and maybe Fisk, but Fisk is just such an awkward one. People don't take it that much. Maybe they'll start taking it now. Who knows? Like, we just started playing the new Crises tonight for, like, kind of our gaming group. Like, there were a couple people playing them a little bit, but now that the print to play's out, we went in tonight and did it. So we don't have a ton of experience yet playing with the new stuff, but
Yeah, I think once kind of the newness factor of the new Crises wears off, I'll be really interested to see how many of the new Crises actually become sort of regular staples as opposed to what had been played before. So, I mean, I heard that at least one sort of basic rule of thumb is that attrition teams basically like lower threat levels and scoring teams basically like higher threat levels. Are there any other, just in terms of broad generalizations with regards to threat, are there any other kind of general rules of thumb that any of you guys like to think through when either you're planning your roster or you're at the table making a threat decision?
I'll usually look at the scenario and what I like. It depends on what list I'm playing too, obviously, but I'll look at the scenario and see what pieces I kind of need, and I'll kind of put together a squad in my head at each threat level and determine if the higher threat or lower threat, depending if I'm playing attrition or scenario. If well, I guess if I'm playing scenario, I'm probably picking a higher one. But like, your opponent could be playing more of a scenario team, and maybe you want to go lower. It's all dependent, right? But I'll look and I'll see, like, if I go at this threat, I can get this, but my opponent with the extra threat level or the extra points can get this. So, like, are they coming out more ahead, going up 2 or 3 threat than I am? And if so, I'll pick the lower one. Something like that. But then again, you have to be able to, like, walk through, like, what their optimal team is for the setup too. So it kind of comes down to game knowledge again.
Alex, what are your thought process in terms of threat levels?
I'm not gonna lie. I've got a very similar thought process to what JP's got. Especially after I started playing Apocalypse, because I don't know, I know what I want to play at certain threat values, depending on my affiliation that I'm playing, but I really have to think about what my opponent can do, and I will ask a lot of questions, especially if I don't know what the model can do. Like, one good example of, like, kind of figuring out what my opponents can do, if I see a, like, eye Hulk on the table, depending on what the threat value is, I'll typically pick the higher threat, because I know attrition. If there's an eye Hulk, attrition's definitely something that they're going to think about, and it sounds like giving my opponent more threat to be able to do more, but it's really more just putting more stuff in my toolbox than my opponent. And then if they end up going the opposite direction of my first thought process, it ends up being kind of a blessing in disguise for me, because then they're taking weaker models and planning ahead for those bigger, tougher models. I don't know. That's just kind of my thought process when it comes to the threat. But then it also depends, if it's a scoring team, trying to stay away from those higher threats is usually better, like David had mentioned. So it's kind of a mix between what JP thinks, how JP thinks, and how David thinks, because like I know my ideal squads for certain threat values depending on the actual crisis, and then knowing what my opponent can do is super important. But JP's brain power is like 30 times better than mine when it comes to the game knowledge of the what of all the models do. To this day, like we were talking earlier this evening, that like, I forgot that like War Machine just doesn't have any superpowers.
His superpower is getting to 10 power. He's really good at it.
Well, given how frequently War Machine ends up seeing the table, I think you could probably be forgiven for forgetting something like that.
AMG buff War Machine, make him better.
100%. Yes, please. David, when you're building a roster, where does threat level factor in when you're choosing your crisis, as opposed to either like crisis shape for secures or the nature of the extracts? Like, can you identify is it like the last thing you think about? Is it the first thing you think about? Or does it all kind of go into the mix at the same time?
So I have been working on my shield roster for like a few weeks now, and I immediately noticed that there were 3 18 threat extracts, which I actually quite like. So I realized I can just bring these 3 extracts and go, okay, I have I have a good team at 18 threat where it's basically I'm going to take Namor. I'm probably going to take a 4. It's usually been Sif because I've been on this kick of like I really like Sif and Zemo together. So like getting those two together is because at 18 I can go Namor, Sif, Zemo, and 2 3s. It doesn't matter what 3s they are; they can be any 3s. And I really like that team. So like, I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll just take all these 18s because I want to play 18. And it actually it's been pretty good. I really quite like it. So like with some rosters, you could literally go, okay, I have this team that I like at this threat value. So maybe I pick the crisis that are at that threat just so that I can choose to have the option to play at that threat. Granted, it still gets weird because you're going to win priority sometimes at least. But 18 is like where I've been thinking about. So I think that that's something to consider when you're building a roster. Like, do I want to play something that's like 20 threat? Right.
I think it was just kind of serendipitous to the 18 threat, right? Because you're playing.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Yeah, because Namor can only force drops on assets. So like the 19 or the 18 is like all those 18s are all assets. They're not civilians.
Yeah, like 2 of them are beams. 2 of them are beam extracts, right? So like you like those on the grunts.
Yeah, those are real good on the grunts.
And then hammers is just pretty good.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say hammers. You like hammers?
Yeah, I mean hammers is good for shield, right?
Yeah. So it all just kind of lines up, like the threat, the being assets, and then actually being extracts that you want to play, as opposed to like, say, like cubes or something where you don't really want to play cubes even though it's an asset. But having all those just be like exactly what you want pretty much is kind of unique, I think. I don't think I've ever had extracts quite line up like that for me. not quite that well.
Yeah, I think it's a cool thing.
JP, why don't you kind of walk through, because I've always been impressed too when you're able to kind of think through your opponent's options on the fly. Why don't you just kind of like walk through how you do that, and maybe give a little bit of an idea of how to help people who aren't used to sort of that particular discipline to get better at being able to analyze your opponent's options. How do you do that? And maybe what are some ways that if people want to get better at doing that, that they can think through how to do that?
Sure. Well, it starts with the leader, right? They have to bring well, they don't have to, but they're kind of dumb if they don't. Although, funny enough, I played a game tonight where I didn't bring a leader, so...
Yeah, I was just going to say, didn't you play a game leaderless tonight?
Technically, I did bring a leader in that game, but he wasn't the leader. I brought Malekith, Ihulk, and Wong as Midnight Suns.
Oh my god, that's such a JP. That is the most JP list I've ever heard.
Yeah, it was a thing. I tried to tried to take it out for one last romantic drive, and Malekith just doesn't feel like he used to. He's just getting old. So he's getting kicked out. But I think I'm gonna still stick with Midnight Suns for a little bit. Anyway, starts with the leader. If your opponent makes it easy on you, they have one leader in their list, so you just be like, okay, well, it's a Kingpin list. They're going with Kingpin, so they start at 4. And then you start just like what's like the Kingpin core. You're gonna have like Rhino and Black Cat and maybe Bullseye if it's like a high threat game and they're trying to wider. But we'll start with like Kingpin, Black Cat, Rhino. So now they're 11. Are we playing a 17? Okay, they're probably playing like Lizard and trying to think of another 3 in Kingpin. It'd help if I had a list, but anyway, whatever 3. So or they could go like Bill and Bullseye, like Beta Ray Bill Bullseye, something like that. But I'm like, I'll start with the leader and I'll be like, well, what is the core and or just the obvious picks for that team? Like if they have a hot model, like they Splash or something. Like if Alyssa has Shang-Chi in it, he's probably hitting the board, something like that. I'll also look to see like what are they trying to do. If it's Kingpin, obviously they're trying to score. They're going to potato on points score. But if it's not as obvious, I'll be like, well, are they trying to kill me or are they trying to outscore me? Because if they're trying to kill me, they might go a little more narrow so that they can maintain priority advantage. So then I'll be like, okay, well, it's this threat and they have this leader and if they're thinking about me, they're probably thinking that I'm going to go 5 wide. So if they want to do that, they're going to have to go 4 wide. So how do they get to 4 wide at this threat? And I'll be like, well, this is an obvious pick. And then it's kind of easy to piece it together after that. A lot of it depends on like the setup of the secure, like how far away things are. Like if it's on a D or something, I guess that it just depends on what people are taking. I don't typically take Ds, but like if your opponent is playing Ds, they're probably playing scenario, so they're going to go wide. So you're going to think like, okay, they're going to try to go probably as wide as possible here, especially if you're playing a scenario team, because then there's a ton of points on the board. Usually like a last activation is more important than prio during a scenario match. So you try to go wide. And the opposite's true for attrition. If you're pushing against attrition, you're trying to go typically 1 more narrow than they are. Just so that you can daze and or KO an unactivated model and still maintain priority, and then just start targeting the model that they have activated so that you maintain prio. Unless they daze one of yours, and then you can like daze one of their unactivated again. That's typically how I do it. I don't know if I explained it very well, but
I would imagine that it kind of it's assumed then you've got your roster for each threat level pretty much locked and loaded. So you can you don't have to I'm assuming that you're not having to spend much mental energy figuring that part out. So if you've got that set in advance, then you can be looking at your opponents. Am I guessing that right?
kind of. It depends on what list you're playing. Like if you're playing like a hyper scenario list, you kind of have what you're gonna play. Like you're just playing your game, and if they can counter it, then they can counter it. If not, then you're gonna score. If you're playing something more mid range or something, I guess APOC is kind of unique, but like APOC is, I mean, man, I don't know. The more I play APOC, the less flexible it feels. But there's still like threes that you'll swap depending on your build. But I'll swap threes depending on like what the map is or what the extract is, what I need someone to do. Like for instance, if it's like all center line, I don't really like taking Deadpool because he just gets splattered. Whereas like I like Blob there as Famine just to like get to mid. He's a lot more tanky, and he's just got the control with the tickles, just push people around. Something like that. If you're playing like tonight, I had Midnight Suns, and you kind of have to identify what you're doing because Midnight Suns they do have a lot of kind of fat in their affiliation list. Like iHulk is obviously a 7 threat, and then they've got like Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider. And I think if there's any other big ones, but like you can kind of go more narrow with Midnight Suns if you want, depending on your build. So like iHulk, it's kind of like, do I take iHulk or do I take like a 4 threat and a 3 threat, or a 5 threat and a 2 threat? There's a definitely a debate there, and you kind of have to identify what you're wanting to do in the game, and can you do that by taking, say, iHulk? Like he's good, but if you're only like 4 wide, can you cover all the bases you need to and still come out in a winning position?
David, do you ever work your list or create your lists with the thought that there are threat levels that you just want to avoid? And if so, when and how do you do that?
I mean, this was more of an issue when 15s existed, because like there were some teams that just would avoid 15, like Apocalypse being one of them. So you just don't bring 15s, right, in that scenario. I think it's a little bit more nuanced now because there's not 15s. It's like maybe you don't want to play 16, but like everything else is like, okay, this is all fine, right? It's all what we've been usually doing. So I think, well, the other thing I was thinking about was that like your splash characters, like because you have to take, for basically if you want to take 2 splash characters, you have to take 3 affiliated characters, right? So like that thought process has always got to be in like, if there's like a specific splash character that you're trying to like play a lot of, then it's like I had this going back to my shield roster, right? Like I realized that I really, really like Sif in the roster. So I want to try to play Sif as much as I can. And if I want to bring Zemo, in order to play at like, even at 17, I have to have an affiliated 2 because I just can't fit what is doing. So then I'm only ending up taking 1 splash character if I don't take an affiliated 2. So then that's why I switched out Bullseye for Widow, right? Which I think you can also look at your opponent's roster and see like, hey, are they playing with some like these specific splash characters? And you can kind of go, well, if we play at 16, they can't take 2 of these unaffiliated splash characters. They can only take 1. So like that's also something to consider.
Mhm. With the new distribution, I actually I didn't look at it the previous one to compare it, but with the way the new affiliations threat levels, they've given us a real clear bell curve in terms of where it looks like they want the game to be played. There's 3 16s, there's 9 17s, 5 18s, 4 19s, and 3 20s. So, Alex, does it kind of feel like the game is moving towards where most of the games were going to be played really in that 3 threat band between 17 and 19?
Yeah, I really think so. I feel as though they playtest most of their models and most of the game at 17 threat. It feels like that's where they were planning to go. I mean, if you look at the original core box, if I remember correctly, all 6 of those were 17 threat. And in the new core box, 5 of the 6 are at 17 threat. And they threw 20 threat in there, and strictly because you have Ultron and Captain Marvel that are at 5 threat, and if you take the 2 squads and add them up, they're at 20 threat. So I really think that's the only reason why they have a 120 threat in that core box, is because they want players to be able to play both of the squads with all the models at the same time. So I feel they're really moving in that direction of playing those 3 threat values, but 17 is their bread and butter and what they test everything with.
I think it's also worth noting that there's kind of a soft out against 16s now. Since Paranoia is not in as an extract at 16 anymore, the only 16s that exist are secures. So
Yep.
if you don't like, if your list doesn't function at 16, it doesn't really matter. Because if you win Prio, you just pick your blues, and then their reds are never going to land on 16. Or if you lose Prio, you just pick your threat that you want. That's not 16.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
How often
you don't really have to have a plan for 16, unless you want one. If you're running 16s,
is that a circumstance that comes up very often, do you think?
where you're
Where you just like a 16 threat would just not function in your roster such that you'd be planning sort of the rest of your game around it.
I mean, I think Apocalypse wants to dodge 16. I think that's the most obvious one.
Okay.
But I mean, if you're playing Hyper Scenario, you definitely want to play more points. So since 16 is the floor, the threat floor, I think you're incentivized to not take 16 as a scenario team. You're just getting more mileage out of more pieces. Because the way, I mean, typically, like we said, an attrition team wants lower threat. It's because there are fewer pieces on the board. So if my attrition team, if I can activate a piece and like take out one of your pieces, I'm taking out a larger ratio of your pieces as opposed to like if we were playing 19 or 20. You're probably down a piece, just from the lower threat, and then I have I've incapacitated a piece there, so you have fewer pieces to claw back points in that round. And when the attrition team starts to KO characters, then it becomes even more difficult because those characters aren't coming back and then they're just dazing new ones. So your ability to score is just lowered. Obviously, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but kind of not. I don't know. It's lowered as the threat value is lowered. And I mean, obviously, the scenario team wants to play higher threat because of the opposite's true. They have more. If they have a piece days, they still have 5 to run around, pick up extracts, flip points, whatever. Obviously, the attrition team's going to have more points too, so they're going to be able to put up more attrition. But it's still like if I have 3 pieces that make it, like I can still run around, pick up extracts, do pay to flips, all these things. But if I only have like 1 or 2, I'm stymied quite a bit.
Well, and the other thing to consider is some of the extracts are single holds. So, like, if your width is not wide enough to cover how many, like, if you're playing, say, Spider Infected, there's 5 civilians on the table. Well, you have to have 5 models to be able to hold all 5. Otherwise, you just can't get that score, right?
Yeah, I played a fair share of Senators games where Senators were just littering the floor.
So, David, any other thoughts in terms of things that you're thinking about in terms of threat level at a list building stage that we kind of haven't covered? I mean, I think we've talked quite a bit about sort of how threat level works at game day, but any other threats in terms of things that you think through or that you would suggest people look at when putting your list together, thinking about the different threat levels?
Well, I mean, I think you want to be able to look at like what specific breakpoints get you an extra model. So, like, if I'm running, say I'm running 20 threat, like I want to play webs. Well, at 20 threat, if webs have double 2s, they could go 7 wide. They can do it at 20 and they can do it at 19. So, like, not very many teams can run 7 wide. That's quite hard to do. So if you have that thought process in mind, maybe you consider taking some of those 19 or 20 threat crisis, like senators and like, scoundrels. That's definitely something to think about when you're designing a roster and how you want it to function.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes there's just like a magical number for certain teams. I would say that's more the exception than the rule. I think a lot of teams are. I mean, every team's probably going to be flexible, but some teams just have like this threat is like an awesome threat for me. Like the list I brought out tonight was like a list I had like a couple, what was that, 2 years ago or something, before the last Malekith nerf, and I just tried to land on 18 to bring iHulk and then Malekith and Blade and just bump around 2 kaijus and kill everything with prio all the time. But like since the Malekith nerf, I don't think it's very good. I mean, it's fine, but it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna be winning tournaments. But like that was a specifically 18 threat, and now that we're talking about that, that 18 threat, like your shield roster brought all those extracts, the weaponry, hammers and Montesi, and that's what I brought on my list tonight, just to land on the 18. Because I had noticed that today. I'm like, oh, cool. These are all 18, and they're like good extracts for me. I'm just gonna bust this list out just to give it a whirl again. But now that I'm thinking about it, like, I think Wakanda would like it too, because they've got a pretty mean 18 with M'Baku, King T'Challa, Killmonger, and Red Skull 2. That's like an 18 that has so much punch. It's ridiculous. So if you could, if you're playing like all those 18s, you lose prio. If they don't pick their reds, I mean, you're going 18. You're hitting your magical number every time, which is kind of sweet. Like since they, I mean, your crisis pick is never guaranteed, but like the old way they did it, it was more guaranteed. Now it's like just a random out of your 3. But if all of your threat is the same, like there's no variance there. There's no chance. You're just, if you lose prio, they pick their blues, you're on 18, you got your magical squad. So sometimes there'll be like I was saying before, 15s always had a magical squad. But there's other threat values that can do it. And I think this 18 threat package is kind of interesting. I think it's definitely something worth exploring, especially for the affiliations that would like those, that would like hammers, Montesi, and weaponry. More like mid-range to like beat 'em up, attrition-y. I think it's definitely worth looking into to see if you can hit one of those really, really solid 18s that just has a huge power spike for the threat. Like I think that aforementioned Wakanda foursome is pretty good on that.
Alex, do you think that the elimination of 15 threat from the game is going to change how it's played?
Yes, but for the good. 15 threat was so hard to play for so many affiliations. Like we've been discussing, attrition teams just dominated 15 threat, it felt like. And like Apocalypse just could not play 15 threat and be effective enough. Because again, we discussed earlier this evening after gaming, Apocalypse sucks without all of his horseman powers. He's just so bad without them. And then it's kind of a nice mental break to not have to worry or think about those 15 threats in the game. Not having to come up with a plan for him, because that one threat truly can make that much of a difference. Needing to come up with a plan, to have something in your back pocket, and an idea of how to deal with it. So I think 15 threat going away is such a great idea. It's a good idea. It's nothing but good for the game. It's kind of like when 14 threat was a thing before the last crises change. When sword was the only 14 threat, it wasn't that big of a deal. But when it did happen, it was oh god, did it suck.
Senators was 14 too.
Was it? I thought it was 16.
Nah, it was 14. So was
Was it
Wakandan
14?
Herb when that existed.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, then there were 2 14 threats, but even then, it sucked.
Was Wakanda Herb 14? Or was it 15?
Wakanda Herb was
I don't
15.
remember. Oh, it's 15.
Yeah.
It's been a
Maybe
minute.
it was 15.
David, do you think there's a substantive enough difference between a 15 and a 16 threat, just in terms of the variety of lists that you can put together to really change and affect how the game's going to be played?
Well, it definitely. So, like, from a web's perspective, right? So, at 15, if I wanted to run ASM in particular, like, if I wanted to run him on this particular crisis, in order to run him at 15, I would have to take double twos, which it just gets weird. Like, it's like, do you even have double twos in your roster? Do you want to have double twos in your roster? Like, I think the 15 just got real toxic for some teams. Like, some teams just couldn't play it, and then other teams are just like flat out amazing on it, and you're like, I don't even know what to do here. It just gets weird, right? I think it's definitely better for the game for 15s to not be a thing. Granted, I still don't know. I mean, we've barely had enough games with the new crisis to really see how that works out, especially with the like taller attrition lists and the wider scenario teams. Like, all the teams that play in the middle that are like, 17 is fine, whatever, I can play that. They're going to be probably for the better, just because it's going to narrow the band of what they're playing. Which I think is good for the game, because that's most of the affiliations in the game are going to be running in that middle range. They're not going to be like, there's less affiliations that are like quote unquote scory, and there's less, and there's a smaller margin of attrition teams now, I think.
I mean, I feel like they nerfed the extremes, except for Web Warriors. Like, they killed a lot of the attrition stuff, with Thanos being gone. Well, I should say the tall attrition. Thanos being gone, pretty much, and then Thor taking a decent nerf, and then just all the previous Kaiju nerfs with Malekith and CGR. Like, I feel like they're kind of focusing on like the 3 tall type squads, and then on the other end we had Hellfire just kind of hit the dumpster. So
yeah, it turns out making an affiliation list for those guys is just awful. That Ross, Hellfire's so bad now.
Well,
I'm
particularly
not gonna lie,
that
I
affiliation
completely
list.
forgot about him.
Okay. Any kind of we'll just kind of go around the horn. Any kind of last thoughts just in terms of threat level as a whole, before we move into our dojo, David?
I think you want to be thinking about typically. So when I look at a roster, if I'm bringing specific splash characters, I'm bringing them for a reason, and I'm trying to play them. So, like, you need to be looking at threats that make it easier for you to play them and still get your affiliated pieces that you need. And I mean, just play games, right? Like, just get used to like going, okay, I've played enough 17 threat games to know that at 17 I should probably be playing this, or at least some variation of this, right?
Right. JP?
I think you need to be, unless you have a very specific thing that you're trying to do at threats, I think you should probably be looking at the scenario first and see if that's good for you. If it's a good threat but it's a bad scenario, it's a bad scenario. Like, it doesn't matter what the threat is. So you should pick scenario first, and then if there are multiple scenarios that kind of fill around the same niche, maybe you look at your list and you say, okay, well, this one is this threat and this one is this threat, and I prefer this threat, so I'm going to go with that one. It's kind of a balance there, where maybe the scenario isn't quite as good, but the threat's a lot better, or vice versa. Like the threat is slightly better, but the scenario is like worse enough where you're willing to take the lower threat. Kind of like when scenario teams would run Paranoia, right? It was the second lowest threat, but it scored so fast that they didn't care. They're just like, okay, we're running 16, let's go. So I think you do need to still pay attention to what your team's wanting to do, because the layout of the board is way more important than threat typically. After that, obviously, threat's still very important. I mean, we're still having an entire pod on it, but don't pick your scenarios based on threat unless you're trying to do something very specific. It's got to be like a very specific list.
Alex, any final thoughts on threat in general?
No, I don't. I honestly, David nailed it when it came to splashes, because I was going to mention that a little bit, and JP said exactly what I was going to say when it came to like the threatened scenario. Scenario is probably the most important part, and then threat behind it. Because if you're not good at the scenario, like JP said, if you're not good at the scenario, it doesn't matter what the threat is.
Okay. Well, Webheads, if you have any thoughts about threats, or if you have some particular rosters that really you feel like utilize threats really well, we'd love to hear about it. Either post it up to us on the socials, or you can send it to us at wittybantercast@gmail.com. We'd love to see it. Ben has sent us a Defenders roster, so we can kind of take a look at that and take some of the things that we had just talked about and put them into practice. So I'll just run through the list real quick, and then we can kind of break it down. The characters are Daredevil, Ghost Rider, Hulk, Man-Thing, Wolverine, Shang-Chi, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Wong, and Amazing Spider-Man. Tactics cards are Cover Me, Street Smarts, Mystic Ward, Pentagram of Ferala, Brace for Impact, Chi Mastery, Deal with the Devil, Heroes for Hire, Survival, and Recalibration Matrix. The secures are Mayor Fisk, Wedding Party, and Deadline to Destruction. And the extracts are Montesi, Unexpected Guest, Crash Royal Wedding, and Legacy. David, with regards to, maybe we'll start out with the character roster. What stands out to you, or what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see his roster of characters?
It's missing Namor. You got to take Namor here. I've been playing a lot of Namor, and he's really good. And I can't see playing Defenders without playing Namor. Like he's an affiliated model, and he's just silly. Like I was thinking about the tactics card Cover Me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you set up a scenario where, like, you say you have like Cage plays Cover Me, and he's next to Namor. So if you attack Namor, right, you're gonna have to you'll just put it on the Cage, right?
Yeah, let's just, for listeners who might not be familiar, how does Cover Me work?
So Cover Me is their tactics card where I don't remember what the power cost is. Is it 4 or 3? I'm not sure. But basically, if you attack the model that plays Cover Me, any affiliated model within they can make an attack. It doesn't matter what the range is, as long as they have range and line of sight and all that, the normal attack things. So with Namor, you can do his spender with Cover Me, right? So what you can do is you can do some crazy stuff, like I'm going to do my spender and I'm going to do the free interact thing. So I'm going to get to interact with an objective like in your activation, or I'm going to make you drop an objective in your activation. Like, that's insane to me. Like, I think that Namor, like, you got to have Namor in here. He's just good.
JP, what do you think?
I would definitely echo Namor. You know, looking at the list, I don't hate it. I think it's a perfectly serviceable list. I think it's pure defenders, which is fine. They have a lot of good characters. I don't think you really need splashes in defenders, especially now that they have Shang-Chi and Namor. Like that round of characters, they came out at the same time, right, Alex? I think the 2 boxes were released same date, right?
Yes, yeah, they came out the same time. I believe it was. It's late at night, guys, so cut me a little bit of slack.
Oh man,
it was May of last year.
All right, so that gave. I mean, those characters. I mean, we were talking a little earlier. We were like speculating, like if they were going to nerf any characters, what would they be? And we were thinking, possibly. I mean, I don't know if they'd need them, but like if they were going to nerf characters, who would they be? And it was like Namor, Shang-Chi, and then like Zemo, and then maybe Hulk and maybe Bill. Those were kind of like our top 5. So the fact that this list has 4 of them, or Defenders has 4 of those, or 3 of those, excuse me. It's got Hulk, Shang-Chi, and Namor, like, affiliated. That's just, yeah, that's really good. I think you want to start the list with Daredevil, Hulk, Shang-Chi, and Namor, and then probably, I mean, Luke Cage is so stupid too. You probably throw Luke Cage in there for 5, and then Wong. I think Wong he's interesting in Defenders. Depending on what you're doing. Like if you're not playing Pentagram or Farala, however you say it. If you're not playing Pentagram, I don't think you'd probably run Wong because he's just, I don't know. He's not great with Daredevil leadership. He's not like doing the beat 'em up thing. But I think you do run Pentagram. Like I don't think there's, the argument is that it's hard to use, and that's a very true statement. But a Defenders list with Pentagram is way better than a Defenders list without it. So I think that's like, what is that, 6? Daredevil, Hulk, Shang-Chi, Luke Cage, Wong, and then Namor. So I think you start with those 6 and then work from there.
Alex?
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
Alex, kind of looking at the list I mean, I guess Amazing Spider-Man kind of seems like he's there for a safe midline steal. Is there anything that you can think of in this particular list of characters that ASM gives you that Namor would not?
He gives you a little bit of a defensive tech. Namor gives you defensive tech in the fact that he gives you rerolls, like he gives yourself rerolls. But ASM has the quips, which is, it kind of doubles down on the defensive tech, I feel. It forces your opponent to reroll a dice, and it can force them out of triggers. But that's really about the only thing I feel ASM brings over Namor.
I feel
they
like
both
if you're
have that midline grab, so I think they both cover that part. And Namor is more of a beat 'em up kind of character, and he really plays with Daredevil's leadership better than ASM, I think.
I feel like you might bring ASM if you're having problems with specific things. Like if Midnight Suns is just giving you fits with iHulk, ASM is almost kind of a hard counter into iHulk unless your opponent just rolls an uncontrollable amount of wilds.
Yeah.
So
I also think ASM. So one of the things about ASM, I think, is his defensive value gets, I don't want to say significantly less, but it gets definitely less when he can't reroll skulls, like when he can't modify skulls. Like it's probably not a huge deal, but it definitely could be.
So, looking at the tactics cards, David, is there any glaring omissions that you see? It's interesting that he only has one restricted card.
That was the first thing I was going to say, too.
I would say, I mean, all these cards are good. Like,
Right.
I guess it comes down to like, are you going to play pentagrams? Like, you want to get practice with pentagrams, right? Because it's kind of a difficult card to figure out how it works.
Right.
I mean, none of the tactics cards are bad. The only one I am kind of on the fence in this is probably Mystic Ward. Not that I think Mystic Ward's a really good really good card, but now that research is out of the game, I just don't know if Mystic Ward makes the cut, I guess.
Why not? Mystic Ward is fantastic on pay to flips.
I mean, I guess it does turn it and you can't like interact with it or whatever, but
yeah.
I like it on Fisk in theory. Anytime you can turn off a scenario or a secure with worth 2 points, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of the same idea of researcher.
Like if you're at parity and you turn off their Fisk and you go up 2 points, now you're kind of, and you have like extracts on your side, you're kind of forcing them to come into you now. I guess they could move your Fisk toward them, but that's kind of a later problem for them because it doesn't actually move your characters into range for them to like take your extracts. So I don't know. I do like Mystic Ward. I don't think it's like a necessity. I think I would take the other restricted card over something. Maybe survival. I'm not sure.
I was just wondering if this, the way the roster's constructed, if survival is good enough to make the cut over something like patch up or sacrifice or indomitable.
Yeah, those cards are way better
Mhm.
than I don't know. I don't think indomitable comes in just because you have street smarts.
Yeah, that's true.
So street smarts is just like not a better one, but like the redundancy just makes indomitable not worth. I think it's probably stack maybe. Like there's some tough nuts in here too. Like you got Shang-Chi, Luke Cage. Even patching up like a Hulk is pretty good. I think patch up's fine. Like I'm usually a patch up fan, but I do like sacrifice quite a bit too. Especially now that I've settled on brace sack for APOC. But typically I'll run patch up over sack in most of my squads. Like I'll run brace and patch. So I think whichever one you prefer, you just put it in here, and it's going to be better than like the weakest card in here. Like I think you always take 2 restricted. I just don't see a reason not to. They're restricted for a reason. Survival's a good card, but I just don't see it getting nearly as much mileage as a restricted card. There's no way. Plus, I think if once we start making changes to it, some of these cards might come. Well, let's see. We've got, I guess, Deal with the Devil and Heroes for Hire. I guess Chi Mastery, but he's not coming out. And neither is Luke Cage. But Deal with the Devil might come out depending on I don't know how much I love Ghost Rider in. I mean, he's good. He's good. We could talk about him, but
Is there
maybe
the
deal
other
with the devil
thing
comes out.
the other thing to consider about survival is there's two things, right? Like I think that this is mostly a fighty team. So like the value of survival goes down on a fighty team because they want to have priority. They want to like daze a model or KO a
Yeah.
model.
Yeah.
And so your value of survival is less. The other thing is that this roster is it's got a lot more higher threat than lower threat. So like you're not going to be able to go as wide, which also affects the value of survival, right? Because survival has 0 value if you have priority, right?
right?
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's a commentary on how defenders used to have no good cards, and now we're actually having the conversation of, well, do you bring a second restricted card or not? It's really we're in a whole different world with that. Is there? I guess I'll just ask is there any thought about bringing Doctor Strange as a second leader to have a pivot, or is that model just so undertuned that it's not worth bringing him?
We were just talking about him. Kind of.
Yeah, he needs help. I mean, we were on a tangent. We were talking about how the five threats that don't have action economy just don't get played.
Right.
Like I
Jean,
mean, that's
Jean
like
Grey, Wanda, Strange. They're not bad models, but just not having action economy is too detrimental. Having to move with a 5 threat sucks. Unless they have a crazy kit. Like moving with Hulk is fine because his kit's insane, but like if you're just moving and like one attacking once, it's like not great. Like they have like Doctor Strange has a heal and Wanda has a throw or something, and Jean Grey has a throw, but they're not good enough at 5 for that. You spend one more and you get a Hulk.
Well, and if those are models that like Strange and Wanda and Jean, they're models that want to like turret. They want to stand in a spot and just shoot you. Well, and even to some extent, like I know nobody plays MODOK anymore, but like MODOK is also a 5 that doesn't have action economy. So like it's just I think it's just something with the 5 threats not having action economy that makes them not good. So I think that Strange just I think he needs help.
So, looking at the crisis, Alex, with the 3 secures that he's taken, Fisk, Wedding Party, and Deadline to Destruction. What do you think of those choices as it pertains to the list that he's put together?
So I will say I like the Fisk choice.
Yeah.
Just looking at his list of characters with Man-Thing and Wolverine both being immune to stun.
Yep.
That's super nice. They both have healing factor too, so that kind of helps with the damage they would take. Daredevil getting hit with stun kind of sucks, but you can kind of help with that if you take Wong. But then the next thing I was gonna say, you've also got a Hulk that's immune to stun. So he's got plenty of options to not worry about Fisk. It's very similar to like my foes roster. I have Fisk in there strictly because I've got Shocker, I've got normally it's Juggernaut, and then I've got Rhino and Doc Ock. And because of all the ways that Rhino and Doc Ock can gain power, the stun doesn't really hurt them either. And then Shocker and Juggernaut being immune to stun, it's just kind of going back to what we were discussing earlier having a plan for these scenarios and those threat values is really important. So I do like the Fisk play with the characters he has here. Wedding Party's fine. I mean, it's Fisk again, but instead of taking damage, you lose power. It's fine. I haven't played it enough to really get a feel for it quite yet. It just, I don't know what you necessarily do with it quite yet. And I mean, it's nice for Daredevil, kind of, because you can kind of force your opponent closer to you and get more of those rerolls. But the same can be said about Fisk. So jury's out on that one. Deadlight and Destruction, I really like that one with the pentagrams play. So but it's a kind of a double-edged sword at that point then too, because your opponent can use the portals and hop through it and do the 2 damage right back to you. So I don't hate that one either, and it's a little bit closer than a D. So it's like I like the map setup with Daredevil's leadership again, because you can force them in the center and possibly get more rerolls out of it.
I
JP.
definitely
Yeah, go, David.
have to shout out Namor here. So I played Deadline to Destruction with Namor, and
Yeah.
holy shit, his ability. So there was a round where I was at one side of I was at one of the sides of the interact, right? So I like interacted and did a damage to Jane, and then I charged She-Hulk on the far side and pursued through her, and then used his spender and did the turtles and interacted with it and did another damage to Jane, and then advanced away from She-Hulk. So basically, he ended up with 2 damage on Jane, a staggered She-Hulk, and I got to get away from anything that She-Hulk could do to me because I had gotten out of her range. So, like, Namor's ability to pivot on Deadline to Destruction and interact with multiple objectives is just ridiculously good.
Namor is so fucking broken. Jesus Christ. JP, what do you think about the secures on this list?
I don't think they're doing much with Pentagram. I don't hate Fisk on paper. It makes me wonder what the plan is, though. At 16, like you're taking Daredevil, and then are you taking Hulk? I feel like it's probably Hulk.
Like
So,
Daredevil, Hulk, Wolverine, Wong?
yeah, but then you're taking Wong on Fisk. I don't know how I feel about it. And then Wise Man thing there if you're taking Wolverine. I mean, if the whole thing is like immune stun, it feels like it's covered a little bit too hard. What's better, Wolverine, Wong, or Man Thing and like Luke Cage or Iron Fist? I don't know. I mean, Wolverine's gonna be putting out more damage than Man Thing, but Wong's not gonna be putting out any damage. Luke Cage and Iron Fist, I mean, they're not like really damage dealers, but they're probably doing more than Wong at that point. I don't know. I would probably settle on like 1 immune stun outside of Hulk. It would probably be.
Actually, thinking about Wong, maybe he's not necessarily there for the damage dealing. It could be he's there to take the stun off of Daredevil.
Is that
I
good?
know. I agree with your statement of meh, but it's not terrible. It's better than nothing.
I think I'd rather have a Luke Cage or an Iron Fist, I think.
Fair.
Well, the other situation with Wong, right, is I So this is one of the reasons why I took Wong out of my Webs roster, was because I don't like Wong on a bunch of these midline crises, because Wong excels at sitting on a back point and like healing people or giving them power. But if he's in the middle of the table, he's just a target.
Gets a random dumpster to the face and dies.
I don't really like him on Fisk. I would probably. I mean, if you're gonna keep Fisk, I would decide at 16. What am I taking? Am I taking Man Thing and a 3, or am I taking Wolverine and Wong? If it's Man Thing and a 3, I'd cut Wolverine. If it's Wolverine and Wong, I'd cut Man Thing. I don't think you need them both. It frees up room for something better. It's probably like if you're taking a 4, you're probably taking Shang-Chi on any other map, right? And you're short 3s already. So if you cut Man Thing, you only have 2 3s in the list. I don't like that. So I'd probably cut Wolverine. I know he's a fan favorite. I love some Wolverine, but I don't know. I just don't think. I think there's too much redundancy, and like cutting Man Thing is not the play probably. Unless you cut Man Thing for another 3, I don't know.
I also think there's some redundancy with Cage and Fist, right? Like
there
kinda
is. I mean, they share a tactics card. I don't think it's terrible to have them both. I don't think it gives you. I mean, it's the defender paying for it, so it's not like one of them. Like, it's not like they need the power. So it's like you could make more of an argument, like, okay, well, one of them doesn't have power, but one of them does, so you can do it off the one. I guess it lets you cover more area, but typically you're wanting the heroes. Typically, you're going in thinking, like, if you bring a Hulk, you're probably going to heroes the Hulk. It depends, right? But Hulk is a really good target for heroes, especially if he's taking some damage. You like prevent the attack, and then he's got a bunch of damage, and he's got wouldn't like me when I'm angry. Extra dice.
Especially since you are going without the extra restricted card, you don't have a sacrifice.
Yeah, I think out of the two, Luke Cage gets the nod over Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's just better with cover me, and I think he has like his double wild stagger on his strike is really good, but it's kind of hard to hit. But if you've got two rerolls, 3 rerolls, it gets easier. You're probably able to do it. Well, I mean, definitely able to do it more often than not without the rerolls. But I don't know. You could probably do one a game ish. Which, I mean, a stagger on a good target is really good. Obviously, Iron Fist Spenders is better, but Luke Cage as a whole is just really, really good.
Okay, real quick question on that one. Is it really better? This is a joke. But is it really better? Because how many times have you used Luke Cage's spender and yelled "Sweet Christmas" and actually pull off a good hit?
Oh, I was talking about Luke Cage's builder as opposed to Iron Fist Spender. They both stagger or
you said Iron Fist Spender is better, which you're not wrong, but as a joke, like how many times have you yelled "Sweet Christmas" with Luke Cage's spender and done well with it?
It really depends on with how much sincerity you yell "Sweet Christmas." I feel
exactly. I've used his spender a whole whopping 2 times in my entire MCP career. The one time I didn't have enthusiasm behind it, 6 blanks and a skull. But when I yelled "Sweet Christmas," that motherfucker rolled 9 hits.
I'm gonna say, I think, like, I'm not a Defenders player. I don't have. I'm trying to think. I think I've put them on the table before, but I have very few reps of Defenders. I usually defer to Eric Wong's lists because that guy jams Defenders. He's the number 1 rated Defender player. He was running E's. I don't know what he's running now because he hasn't been running them. since the changes. So I have no idea what he would run on secures. I ran into Nobility at LVO, who's a second-rated Defenders player, and I ended up on like the worst combination of Secure Extract, and he had Riots, and Riots was just a complete paddling. I feel like Riots is one of Defender's best secures, and if you have Wong, well, because Pentagram exists, I think it's one of their best secures. So if you're running Wong and Pentagram, I think you run Riots. I don't know what you cut.
Agreed.
Maybe Wedding Party. I don't hate Deadline. It's just a mosh pit, and you get a lot of rerolls. But the Riot thing with being able to like block your one end of your portal and hop through and just constantly heal and play keep away with extracts. If you get good at that, it is ridiculous.
Agreed.
Well,
So-
and that's the other thing with like Namor too, right? Because like say you put out pentagrams, right? You can have Namor charge, like hit somebody, maybe make them drop their extract, and then hop back through the portal and block them from coming into you, right?
Yeah. Plus,
Just-
when you're bunkering on a back D on the portal with Namor, you're giving everybody a defensive reroll, which is annoying.
But yeah, just for people who might not be really familiar with it, lay out the thought process with being able to block someone coming out of a portal. How does that work, and how do you set that up?
Well, you basically just position yourself so that they can't place any models within one of the portals, so that they literally just can't come through it.
So like you set the portal up where there's terrain and stuff that is blocking something, and then you place, when your model comes through, you just place it so that basically there's no place for somebody else to come through and place a model within one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're
Something
running
like that.
Hulk
Yeah,
and
the
like
larger bases are-
Namor, like you can easily just block it so that they just literally can't place within one.
Okay.
But terrain helps too. You want to place the pentagram so that you can land on the riot just coming through the portal.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to move to get on it. It doesn't have to be directly on the riot, but you want it within distance to be able to come through the riot or come through the portal and just land on the riot automatically. But it doesn't. You don't want it too far, because if you have it like far enough away, like only the people on the edge are going to get on it, and then you start blocking your characters from getting on it once you start setting guys up. So you want to kind of buy it. It's something you'd have to play with to figure out. But I mean, you get to place the portal within 1 of Wong, and then you place the other portal within 5 of Wong. So it's something that you just got to play with and figure out on the map. But terrain definitely helps. If you can get a piece of terrain in there and then a big base, like it gets really crazy. Even if you don't completely block, like they hop through, they've got one guy, they do their thing, and then you like punch them to death, and then they're sitting in that spot dazed and they can't get another guy through. It's really, really repressive. It feels really bad if the portal player's like very seasoned with it. Feels real bad. I think you got to get that in there.
Alex, what do you think about the extracts, the Montesi, Unexpected Guests, and Legacy?
Montesi's definitely a good choice. In the thought process of Daredevil, how Daredevil Defenders wants to play. I don't hate Legacy Virus either in that aspect, and that same thought process, because it's the same kind of map setup, but just turned 90 degrees. What hell? I don't remember what Unexpected Guest does.
You've got the 4 guests, and then if if someone who's holding the extract isn't within 2 of a secure, they get pushed towards it short.
Okay, yep. Then yes, I like that one quite a bit in this situation. Pushing people into Daredevil reroll range, fantastic.
Yeah, these extracts all very much seem like a list with murder on its mind, like would want to take.
Yeah, I don't hate any of these. I'm trying to think. I don't hate like Terrigen canisters. That wouldn't be a terrible one because I mean he's got Hulk immune to poison. Doesn't care about that. He's already a short mover. Who cares? And it prevents your opponent from running away, and then them getting poison is always nice. He's got a lot of 4 physical defense models, so the chances of him getting poison are even lower.
Not to mention Hulk gives no fucks about that.
Yeah, like it's yeah.
Right.
Fuck, I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that are like better in general, because like this one plays on the like it's super fast scoring because there's 5 points, but because it's very anti runaway,
Right.
defenders I feel really like it. I can't think of really any other extracts that they would like over some of these other ones. So I think these were great picks.
JP, what are your thoughts on the extracts?
I don't hate them. I think that, like, if I'm looking at the list and so 16 is weird because we want immune to stun for one of them, and then deadline destruction is different, so we could take something a little different on that. If you're trying to jam certain models, though, so like when I'm looking at this list, I'm thinking like, okay, the 4 best models in the list are Daredevil, Hulk, Shang-Chi, and Namor.
Right.
So that's 19. So that is like kind of a power spike for this list, I think, at 19. To run those 4, and if you need to go wider, you can break Hulk or Namor into like Wong and a 3 or 2 3s. If the situation calls for it, say you're on like Senators or something and you don't feel comfortable going 4 wide, something like that. But if it's on your extracts, like Deadly Legacy is great at 4 wide, because there's only 3 and they're stackable. So that's a really good one. I'm trying to think. Is there? So like Senators is 19, but that's a lot out there. So Virus is the only 19 extract. I think like 18 is okay. It's not as good, but you can drop Shang to a 3, or you could drop like Hulk to a 5 or Namor to a 4. Problem is I don't know if we drop Wolverine, there's not another 4. So we'd probably drop Shang to a 3, or if we keep Ghost Rider, we could drop Hulk to a 5. I really like Hulk though. I think taking Hulk to Ghost Rider is like a big downgrade. That 19 just feels really strong to me. Luke Cage is fine. Like he's just kind of punching bag, protects your other guys. I mean, 18s are fine. You could try to go something low. But we don't really have any. There's no 16 extracts that are in the game anymore, so minimum you're taking 17, and I don't think that's like. I think I'd rather go up to 18 at that point, if other things being equal, because I'm trying to get those really premium pieces. Let's see, at 17 you could take, if you drop Hulk, you could go Shang-Chi, Namor, Daredevil, that's 13. And I guess you could put another 4. So I guess that's kind of where my head's at. Like if you're going 17 or 18, we want another like really good 4 or 5, depending on what we're picking here, so that we can downgrade like Hulk to a 5 or Namor to a 4. Or I guess we could downgrade Hulk to a 4. So we could go like Namor, Shang-Chi, Daredevil, and a 4 at 17. Who's good? Maybe Sif? Sif would be alright. That might be kind of like Shang-Chi, Sif, Namor, Daredevil at 17. Might not be bad.
Maybe
I'm just
Bill.
trying to think. No, I don't like Bill. Like Bill's fine, but like Sif just having charge to get into a good position for the rerolls, and then she can like charge round 1 with rerolls. She's tanky. She's got displacement. She's kind of like Chi, like slightly off-brand Chi. She's just good. She's solid. You can hold her. You can hold her activation because she's so tanky. I'm just trying to like hit power spikes with it.
Mhm.
I think 17 you could hit a power spike. At 18 we would need like a good 5. I don't know who that would be. I don't know if Ghost Rider is it. Maybe. I mean, he's got the 3-cost movement superpower, so he can get within range 2 and start doing some stuff with rerolls. I just don't love Ghost Rider. And if we cut Ghost Rider, we could make room with the deal with the double cut. I don't know. I think Deadly Legacy's good. Maybe Hammers. Hammers might be alright. Especially if we're running Hulk. Like Hulk with Hammers is always good. You can stack him on him. He just gets ridiculous. You got Luke Cage to protect him. I don't hate Hammers.
Daredevil's spender with hammers is kind of dumb.
Yeah. I don't know if I like unexpected guests that much. I think unexpected guests might go for maybe Hammers.
Well, the other problem with unexpected with the guests is the fact that it's a civilian, so that also affects your plan with Namor.
Good call.
point.
So all these other ones are assets, though, right? Montesian virus,
Yeah, they're assets.
right? So I
I
think,
don't know. I can't stand hammers. I'm sick of seeing it. I would like
yeah.
to see something else.
I mean, you could go weaponry too. It's 18. But if we're doing 18s, we want a 5, not a 4, so that we can do Namor. I don't know if I like Namor, Shang-Chi, because then you're just, I feel like Shang-Chi is just really good. If you're, what am I trying to say? Like you have to downgrade too many characters if you're trying to go a little wider. So I think you're kind of locked in at 4 unless you really want to start taking like a bunch of okay 3s. Like I don't think there's great 3s here. Like they're fine, but like Luke Cage is fine, but he doesn't do the beat 'em up that the list really wants. Like if you're trying to go for like a really thumpy setup, I think you're trying to go 4 wide with like Daredevil, Shang, Namor, and something. So if we're playing 18s, we want a 5. I don't like maybe like Jane or something. I'm trying to think of like a really good 5 that would be good here. Can you guys think of one?
I actually like Jane in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
She can get a
That
lot of
actually brings
rerolls.
me to another thought that you had mentioned it when you mentioned Sif. I think this roster, like Daredevil specifically, wants to play with characters with ability to like charge or place or some way to get in range of multiple models
Yeah,
to make attacks.
for sure. And Jane does that
So,
too.
so
Would-
maybe this roster needs Valkyrie. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that too. Valkyrie, I like better than Iron Fist for sure. I think Luke Cage is a staple, and Man Thing if you're trying to go for. I mean, unless we want to cut Mayor Fisk, and then we can cut Man Thing easy.
would Nova work in this list?
Mm,
I mean, he's 5. He can get where he needs to go, and he can put himself in a circumstance where the rerolls would be nice. I don't know. I just it feels counterintuitive, but I don't know.
I don't hate Nova. He's kind of. I mean, 10 dice. 10 dice is nothing to sneeze at for sure. He just doesn't have single target damage.
Multiple rerolls, yeah.
Yeah.
Like with Jane, you get like 2 attacks and a terrain throw
Right.
on a single target if you need it.
Right.
Nova just runs into problems sometimes where like he's really good. Like his beams can just be stupid. But sometimes you'll just whiff and you're just getting 1 attack on like 3 characters or something.
Right.
And you don't get anything dazed and then you're sad.
Yeah.
And you're out of power.
David, I was kind of coming back to our original conversation. I noticed that he's got all the threat levels covered in his between the different crises. Do you is there something specifically to the threat levels that he's got available that maybe he wants to take a look at and think through?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're running 2 16s, you got to be thinking about 16 threat.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what's the optimal 16?
This kind of warps that though, right? It depends. Like, I think the stun might be a little overblown, depending on how you're trying to play Fisk. But it is nice to have stun immune guys, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But I mean, if you're trying to weave in a little bit of stun immune, that definitely warps how you're preparing a 16 for Mayor Fisk, as opposed to Deadline, where you're just like, okay, well, what's the best setup for that? Like, there's only a handful of stun immune characters in the game, so
I guess I was just wondering, since if this feels like it's more of an attrition-y list, would there be a value in just having the 3 16 secure, so you could be in a circumstance where you could force that threat? Is that more valuable than the scenarios that he's picked?
Well, there's two answers to that question, right? First of
Mhm.
all, the 16s are coming on the secure side, and most of the time, I'm not saying always, because it definitely is different, but most of the time people with priority will pick their secures, so then you're landing on your extracts, which means that you're not going to get to probably pick 16.
Right.
The other answer to that question is like, it's like I don't think you want to play Cosmic Invasion, the other 16.
Yep, that's the other 16.
I mean, as a portal play, it's fine, or a pentagram play.
Yeah, but it's not better than Riots, right? Like,
No, it's not better than Riots.
So it becomes like why play that specific 16 and why not just play riots, right?
Yeah, if you're keeping the other 2 16s, yeah.
Right.
I don't think you go all 16s for sure. You definitely do that.
Okay.
Because Rice is just strictly better. And like we were saying earlier, the only 16s are secure, and they're gonna like if they pick their secures, then you're never gonna get 16 anyway.
Right.
And if you pick your secures, then they'll just pick their threat if you win prio.
Right.
I mean, it just depends on what you want to do. You want to mosh pit? Just okay. Pick Fisk and Deadline. I think you still take Riots. Riots is just good. If you don't want to take Riots, if you want to take another mosh pit secure, fine. But then just cut Pentagram from the list. I think Pentagram's good though. I think the new scenarios, the new secures are going to take a little time to figure out how to do pentagrams, because like players like Eric have mathed out like all the pentagram setups for all the current secures, but the new ones are going to be something that people are going to have to put some time into, and it might be. Pentagrams might be really good again, or it might not be very good with this round of like the secure matrix that we have right now. We'll see. We sell riots, so it's definitely super good on that. Yeah, what do we think about the characters? So we cut ASM for Namor, and then are we cutting somebody for Valkyrie? Are we cutting Iron Fist?
Iron Fist to Ghost Rider?
I think you do cut Iron Fist for Valkyrie. Like Valkyrie, I mean, her charge is already online. Like
we can cut Wolverine Strider, right? Maybe for like Sif and Jane. Do we like Ghost Rider as much as Jane? I don't know. It's whatever. If you want to play Ghost Rider, play Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
I think Jane's probably better.
Yeah, unless you've got a real specific plan for Ghost Rider, like if you think you're gonna get caught on like use him as a pay to flip or something, I don't know. Unless you've got a specific plan for him, I could see bringing Jane in.
Agreed. That and also clears up a tactics card slot so you can get that second restricted card.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because if we cut Iron Fist, we still have heroes.
Yep.
Wolverine doesn't have anything. Ghost Rider, yeah. So we could do that, and then we have really strong squads at different threats. I just think there's some real power spikes with this list if you have the right 10, you can do some serious damage.
And then it kind of sounds like with regards to the Crisis, it sounds like we kind of have a consensus of swapping Wedding Party for Riots. And I think leaving the extracts kind of as they're listed, yeah?
I would probably swap Unexpected for something. Probably hammers or maybe the new weapons.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it definitely has to be an asset, right? Just because you want to play Namor.
Yeah,
Namor's
that's right.
Namor's
You don't think Terrigen's worth a thought?
Well, the problem with Terrigen is I don't like the mid grab with Namor on Terrigen because like slowing Namor is terrible.
That's fair.
And with 5 points on the board, even though you're slowing things down, if you're coming up against a real scory team, you might, since you're going to be narrower, you might have some problems with it.
That's fair.
The other advantage I will say about the new Inhuman Weapons one is that like Namor can, so Namor doesn't have to automatically mid grab. He can wait and see if you walk somebody over and grab that other one, and he can walk up, punch them, and grab that other one.
Yep.
So like that's pretty good because the proximity of those two, he can grab either one. If he's like, if you park him right behind, he can grab either one. So like, there's 4 of them in the middle. Your opponent only has so many mid steals. They're not going to be able to like do it a bunch of times. So somebody's going to be left on that mid line where you can like easily get to them.
Right.
Plot twist. He's going to come across a list that has both Namor and ASM. Boom. 2 double grabs. First turn. Game over.
Or it's like X-Men and they like steal both of them and like walk backwards away.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Any kind of closing thoughts in terms of how to either what the roster wants to do or maybe some tweaks or play suggestions for it, David?
I mean, I guess it really kind of depends on like if you want to play Ghost Rider, if you want to play Man Thing. Like I think Man Thing is fine, but like you could take Valk. You could take Valk instead of Iron Fist. Like I'm not sure how much you're going to be playing Wolverine with Shang-Chi existing. It gets weird unless you're going to run double 4s, which is fine too. But then you're also running 3 4s because of Daredevil.
Right.
So like I don't know if that's what you want to do. It's just one of those things. Like I think Wolverine is fine, and I like Wolverine, but I don't know if he makes the cut.
Yeah.
Especially
JP
because
would-
Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi's just dumb.
Yeah. JP, any kind of final thoughts on Ben's defenders?
I think if you're really trying to optimize it, you probably don't run pure defender. I think the list as he sent it is probably it's good. It's a good list. There's nothing like glaringly bad, I guess, except for not having Namor. That
Right.
Namor definitely is something. And I think wedding party, or not wedding party, unexpected guests is probably not a go either. Just because you're probably I would want to jam Namor as much as possible.
Yeah.
So having that as an asset is definitely something you would want to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Other than that, I think everything's fine the way it is. I think I would, if I was trying to take it to a tournament, I would swap out a few of the characters like we were talking about.
Yep.
And then I don't know. The new secure extract world is very new to me still.
Yeah.
So I can't really I don't know if I would actually go with Mayor Fisk and Deadline depending on the meta. Maybe. I definitely would have Riots. And then I would have to mess around with the other 2. I don't think Fisk or Deadline are bad necessarily. But I would definitely wouldn't those wouldn't be locks for me. And then the extracts, I think Daredevil's wanting to play something in the 3 to 4 range for extracts. So I think these are like Montesi, Legacy, and like a hammers or weapons. Any combination of those is probably fine. You could even pop Montesi out for weapons and then have hammers and virus. I don't hate that either. Because Montesi is always kind of weird. If your opponent can snag the middle one safely, kind of puts you on the back foot. You have to kind of go into them to break the parity, or because they've broken parity to get caught back up. You kind of have to throw your team into theirs. So Montesi's a little awkward sometimes. I think I would probably weapons over Montesi, especially if you're running Valk and Valk, Namor, and Sif. Like some combination of those, because they can all get to midline and start attacking round 1. which gives you a lot of tempo. When they have to come up, they have to pick up 2 weapons off mid to get to parity with you.
Mhm.
It just sets you up to start attacking them immediately. So I think for extra, I'd probably start at hammers, weapons, and virus.
Alex, any additional thoughts on the list?
No, David and JP kind of covered everything I was gonna say. I like the list the way it was, but if you're going for more of a competitive feel, I like the ideas that we had mentioned. But I do want to give you credit, Ben. Thank you for putting Wolverine in there. I love Wolverine, and I don't think he gets enough love, especially after exceptional healing went away. He's in my apocalypse roster, and he'll be there till the day I die.
Hey, Wolverine's not bad. Like he's got a good health pool. He heals 2 a turn, which is freaking amazing. He does have a charge. He's got Pierce. He's not bad. He's not a
I'm
bad
not saying
character.
you guys said he
No,
was a bad choice.
I know
I
you're
just
not.
am giving him kudos.
I'm defending Wolverine a little bit, but I don't think he's optimal.
Yeah, I didn't say you guys said he was a bad choice. I was just giving Ben kudos because I feel like he gets forgotten sometimes.
Yeah. Wolverine just suffers from being not Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't think Defenders has enough reason to take pure affiliation. Like what does it get you? It gets you street smarts. That's about it, I think. So
Mystic Ward.
I mean, yeah, kind of, but someone's going to be able to play
really
Mystic
like
Ward.
that card.
It's not like everybody can play Mystic Ward, like one person. But if you have 5 defenders on the board, all 5 of them can play Street Smarts, but only one of them plays Mystic Ward. So, I mean, that's like the only argument is kind of Street Smarts, and I don't think that's enough to justify taking suboptimal characters compared to something that's really, like, really, I don't want to say pushed, because everything feels like decent, but like a Sif or a Jane or something in their threat slot, I think are just better. Even considering the street smarts that maybe Wolverine can do, like Sif, I think Sif is just like a better piece there.
Okay, well, thanks for that. Thanks for that roster, Ben. We'd be anxious to hear what you think about it and if you've made any tweaks to it and how it's worked out. So let us know. Let us know kind of how the roster's been working, especially kind of in the new Crisis world. And for those of you out there who are listening, we are open for dojoing anytime. So email us a list at wittybantercast@gmail.com and we'd be happy to take a look at it. And if you are a member of the Patreon, then you get a priority in terms of getting your list dojos. So other than that, we're going to call it a wrap for an episode. Thanks for joining us, Webheads. Make sure that you're following us at all the socials at Witty Bantercast. Email us, follow us on Patreon. We're looking forward to hearing from you on your thoughts on the threats on the dojos list. And other than that, until next time, Webheads, be good.
I totally didn't realize I was checking on my phone, and on the Discord it said Craig is thinking.